Okay. So let's get started. So you see my palette there, right? It's tiniest little daubs of paint, and I'm using a size 10 brush, and it's quite a short handle. Because it's a small canvas, I mean, you can see it's the size of my hand. We don't want to use a big, large paintbrush. The 10's maybe even a bit big, but we'll go with it. It's a rounded tip brush that I'm using. Again, you can use whatever you like. You'll find, you know, as you practice, you'll find a brush that you actually prefer. I used to use the flat but angled, the slightly angled brushes, and I quite like those. You'll often find that there'll be certain brushes that you use for certain methods of painting. But for this exercise, it's just meant to be a little bit fun, a little bit light-hearted painting. So we're not going to go and confuse things too much. All right. So first of all, we're going to just block in the background. All right, so I'm just going to get a mixed colour, and we're going to block this whole background down, leaving out the bird, and then we're going to go round again, and then we're going to go into the bird. Okay, so keep this nice and quick and simple. So let's see what colour we should do. Let's do a nice bright kind of yellowy green colour. So you want to do a little bit of the white, a little bit of this cadmium yellow, and maybe just a touch of the blue, and that gives you a nice green. Okay, keep it more yellow than green, but you know, you'll get used to how much you need to add each colour. Don't worry if you get this totally exact. This is base layers, and then just start plopping it onto your canvas. Okay. And you're just putting a base layer in, so you might need to add a little bit of water, but don't worry too much. You're going to put in some of your own kind of ideas of where the feathers and things are. All right. This is an exercise just for fun. If we were doing an exercise to advance your skills and get proportions, I would take you through another level and take you through different stages. But for this one, just enjoy it. So I always just put a little bit of paint on. I don't put a lot on, but you might find that you want to layer it on and slap it right on there. So, you know, if you do, just go for it, do it, slap it on. So you see that every time my brush hits the canvas after I've mixed the paint, it's a slightly different colour. So like I've said to you already, don't worry too much. Just go with it. The more you let yourself go and just embrace the moment, and just, you know, don't worry about it being totally perfect, the more you're going to experiment, and the more you're going to learn, and the more fun you're going to have. It's when you start worrying about whether you've got the colour right or the tone right or anything else that you start to subconsciously hold yourself back, and it's a shame, but we all do it. But we need to put the robin up on the screen. So right now I'm not actually looking at my image that I'm using as a reference, because I'm going to make the background my own take. So you can do exactly the same. You can follow me step by step, or you can say to yourself, well, actually, I want to experiment, I want to make my background something different, and you can, all right? But the idea of this video is just to get you started, get rid of the blank canvas, get your little creative flow going, and have some enjoyment. There we go. So it's a nice wee base layer on that canvas now. Now there is it's like a little post that the robin is sitting on, so I'm going to be mindful that I don't paint the post. Don't worry if you go over the lines a little bit, it's not a big deal. You're going to be painting the bird, as well, so you're going to bring all that information forward as you add your layers, so I won't worry too much. And again, if you feel like I'm going a little bit too fast, just pause the video, catch up, and then play it again. That's the whole, there's a good thing about watching a step-by-step video, is that you can pause it, catch up, and then play it again. And again, you can see I'm just constantly just mixing the colour. It's not the same colour every time I do it. I'm just putting a nice base layer on and filling the background. The good thing about working into the background first is, what it means is when you start working on the bird, where the bird has fuzzy feathers and things coming out, you can work that over the background and it'll just look complete. Whereas if you do the bird first, then you try and do the background, you're then trying to work into little bits that you've created with your paintbrush for the feathers. So not doing too well here with this bit. Canvas keeps moving, but now when you're using your brush, what you will find is from time to time I just squeeze the excess water off. Now sometimes I'll have a little bit of kitchen roll on my easel or whatever, and I'll just dab the brush, because sometimes you'll find that water, especially where the bristles meets the metal, the water gets trapped in there, and when you start painting it starts to pull and come down the bristles, and you don't want that. So from time to time, depending on how you're going to use your paints, you might actually take the excess water off. Now, okay, so we're going to work some of this reddy orange now that I've put in here. I'm going to put some of this in around the outside. So I'm going to go to the yellow ochre, which is the slightly darker yellow. I'm just going to put it over the same mix that I've got. A little bit of the red, the cadmium red. And again, I'm using white because I don't want it to be too dark. Alright, so you've got a nice bright orange, and I'm just going to dab it on because that'll give me a nice rustic kind of background. Now again, it's all different techniques that you're going to use throughout this. Just enjoy it. The good thing about this is when you start to do little pieces like this and you're not putting any kind of real effort, I'm not going to say real effort, but I mean, like when it's more just a fun exercise, so you're not trying to make it realistic or anything, you're just literally wanting to get this nice little birdie on and make a really lovely painting. It means that it's a little bit more relaxing for you and you're not putting so much pressure on yourself. And again, you'll see every time I remix and put my brush to the canvas, I'm getting a different colour again. Now you might find from time to time that you do need to just dip the brush into the water a little bit, so dip the tip of the brush into the water just to get a little bit of moisture in it so that the paint will actually go onto the canvas nice and thick, but it'll go on without actually drying out too fast. You'll get used to it. Acrylics, it's just again just a chance to get used to another medium. If you're using colour pencil, there'd be another technique to that, and so on and so forth. So yes, just dab it on in there. You'll find as you build your layers, your paints will eventually blend and they'll look really lovely. So we're working the background a little bit just now, and I want the background worked as much as I can so that when we go into the bird, we're not having to try and put bits of information around the bird. The background's already done. If you're working with a medium like coloured pencil, this wouldn't matter because there's a lot more accuracy in things, but with acrylic. Usually it's a good idea to do the background first, or at least a kind of background, and then work into it again later. You often hear artists mention about working in layers, and that's all it is. It's literally, that's what it is. It's just like adding a layer at a time. It's great. So again, I'm a little bit pinky there, so I might actually start adding a little bit more yellow and stuff and make it a bit richer. But we'll just go with this colour just now. I'm just dabbing it on. Again, every time I feel that the paint's getting a bit too sticky and a bit too dry, I just dip the tip of the brush into the water just to put a little bit of moisture on it so that it's easier to put it on the canvas. I just have to watch because my canvas keeps wanting to move. If you're using a small canvas, you're probably better with a smaller easel, in fairness. Desktop easels are perfect for that. Right, so I'm going to use some of this bright cadmium yellow and mix it with the red. So some of the bright cadmium yellow mixed with the red, and just go over it a little bit again. So you're getting some nice warmth in there with that salmony pink colour. So you get nice different tones in there. Again, I'm just playing around here. I'm not following any kind of references or anything. I'm just doing my own thing. You could do bright blue if you wanted to. You could do black, grey, whatever you want. So, there we go. So we're just mixing some of that in. So we get nice different tones in there, which is good. And again, like I'm saying, because the acrylics dry quite fast, you can work over them quite quickly and build your layers quite quick. So that's what's quite good about them. With oils, you really couldn't do that. You would have to leave it for a little while before you went back into it again. I love these rich red, orange colours, they're lovely. So you can see the way I'm mixing up my colours. I'm quite loose about it. I'm not being too regimental. So I'm going to add some white to that original mix. I'm going to stick with that nice cadmium yellow, add a little bit of white. If I need more red, I'll go for more red. And I'm just going to go again over this bit. Just stippling it on. Because it's semi-wet, it's not like completely dry. As soon as the moisture touches it, it'll blend, so it's quite nice. So a little bit white, a little bit of that cadmium yellow. If you need to add the red, don't put too much of the red in. and just stick it on again, yay. It's what I like about the rounded tip brushes, because they, you know, they're really good for that kind of stipple blend technique, so they're nice, I like that. Oh, I love the way these colours are working. They're really, really lovely. And you'll see that as I kind of take the wet into that semi kind of wet area, it's blending quite nice. That's why I like these particular paints, because they are thick and creamy, and you can get away with the blending on the canvas with them, which is really lovely. Other acrylics, you probably wouldn't get away with that quite as easily. So it does make a difference with the acrylics that you choose to use. Right, so I'm going to go a little bit more white again, just put a little bit of water on the tip of my brush. And I'm going to stick with the white and that yellow, the cadmium yellow. And I'm just going to go into this section again, close to the bird. If I do go over a little bit, it's all right, because we're going to be working into the bird as well. So once we finish this background section, we're going to be working into the bird, so it'll be fine. So again, we've went from dark into light, into light, into light, which is a nice kind of... There we go. If you wanted to, you could put some of the white patches further out if you really wanted to, and it gives a nice effect. It's totally up to you. This is your piece, this is your artwork, make it your own. There we go. Right, now you see the reference of the bird on the screen, so that is what we're going to be moving on to now. Don't panic too much. We're not going to be doing it totally exact, fantastic, realistic and all the rest of it. If this was an advanced course, then yes, I would take you through all those stages, but it's not. This is a fun one, so we're just going to go with the flow. I'm just putting the bristles into that area, just so that when we actually start painting the bird, we've got a good layer in the background there. There we go. There you go, that's you got your background done. How nice is that? Now I'm giving my brush a good clean, so I'm just swirling it about in the water and giving it a good clean. And again, like what I said, make sure you take the excess water off it, because they do tend to hold the water up near where the bristles meet the actual metal of the brush. Right, so the next stage I'm going to take you to, I'm going to take you right round the back of here. So you'll see that in this section here and all the way down, it's a kind of browny colour. So that's where we're going to use the burnt umber, which is this brown here. So we're going to take some of that and some of the white, and that will give us a nice pale colour. I want just to put a tiny little bit of the yellow ochre, which is the slightly deeper yellow. It's like a dirty yellow, and that just pulls the umber down a little bit and warms it up, because we want it to be kind of warm at this point. Alright, so then we're going to take that colour and we're just going to pop it in round there. Don't worry too much about it being totally accurate. It's not a problem, just dab it on. And you'll find that this little robin will end up looking different to this little robin. Similar, but different. Every piece is unique. So now you understand why we did the background first. Because it means that when we start to work the robin's going to be sitting in the background nice and smooth. There's not going to be that outline round it or anything. So we'll come right down to this point here. It does get lighter in that section, but we're going to take it all the way down into this little bit here and into the shoulder there, okay? So into the shoulder. Now you probably panic a little bit because you're losing some of your guidelines, but that's okay, don't worry about it. And again, if you find that the paint's like a little bit dry and it's not flowing on the canvas too easily, just put the tip of your brush into the water and that'll just get the paint flowing again. This is just your first layer, so it's not a big deal. There you go. And you'll notice that when I'm using the brush, I'm holding it on the end here and just brushing with the tip of the brush. What that does is it stops you trying to be so in control like this and wanting to lean on the canvas and things. It keeps you quite loose with your approach. Okay, so give your brush a good clean. Take the raw umber just on its own, so just the raw umber on its own. So a nice little dab of that paint neat. And just down here, now you'll see it from the image on the screen, there's a section in here that's dark, so just put it in. Doesn't have to be accurate, just put some kind of wee dark section in here. You know it's there. Okay, there you go. Okay. Now we're going to take the raw umber again, a tiny little bit of the blue and some of the white, and it's going to give us a kind of grey tinge. It will still be slightly warm because it's got the umber in it. So raw umber, blue and white. Okay, and you're going to go just round the edge there. Okay, just round there, all the way down, and there, into that bit, and then down here, just on the tip there, like that. Then into the tail, so into this bit, and out. And don't worry about the shape of the tail or anything. It's fine as long as you've got it there. All right. Give your brush a good clean again. All right. Okay. So we're going to use the raw umber again and the blue, and this time we're going to make it lighter. So you need a lot more white. It's got a little bit more blue hue in it, so it's a little bit more blue hue than the white. And once you get that nice kind of pale grey blue colour, you're going to go in here and down here, like so. Put that in, and you just follow some of the markings. You don't have to follow all of them, just follow some of the markings. You'll see them there, and you're just brushing it. Doesn't have to be totally exact. Don't worry if it's not amazingly exact. Just brush it in. I'm brushing it in quite dry because I don't want it to be totally like definite and flat. So just put some of them in. What you're doing is you're putting in some of the shadows of the white fur. Okay. Now again, that same colour, add a little bit more white, and this time a little bit of the yellow ochre. Right, just a little bit. And white, yellow ochre, and that grey blue colour you had. And just going to brush this area. Now what you're doing is you're still getting a grey colour, but it's got a warmth in it because of the yellow ochre. I'm just going to fill that section there in. Up here a little bit, and that's it. All right. Scary stuff, you started the bird. Nah, it's not scary at all. It's good fun. So give your brush a good clean again. Now, we're going to mix up some orange. I'm just going to add some white to my palette because you'll see that I'm running low. So I'm going to just put a little top up onto my palette. Okay. Right, so we're going to use the cadmium yellow because that's a nice rich colour. So use the cadmium yellow and a little bit of the raw umber. So just dab your brush and use a little bit of the raw umber. If it's still a bit too yellow, a little bit of raw umber again. Okay, and you should get a kind of brown colour. Then go to the cadmium red, and again, just the same as what you did with the raw umber, just a little dab. We don't want too much. And take a little bit of the white, just to tone it down a little bit. You want it to be more orange than brown. So you might find you need to add a little bit red as you go. That's pretty good, okay? Once you get a decent kind of orangey colour, like that, I want you just to go across the top of the nose over the eye, okay? So, and what I'm going to say to you is, stroke it the way the feathers are. So if you look at the screen, the feathers are going like that. So just do that, okay? This is just your first layer, so don't worry too much. But if you start as you mean to go on, it makes it easier. Okay, so you'll tip your brush in the same direction as you see the feathers flowing. And it means that you don't have to be completely amazingly detailed, but you'll give enough information to make it look like it is feathers. And again, leave this section here because it's slightly lighter. Come down to this section. I think what we need to do is add a little bit of red. That's a little bit too pale, so I'm going to say to you to add a little bit cadmium red and just bring it so that it's a bit richer. And yeah, that's better. And go over that section. Just under the eye. Like that. Good, simple stuff. And again, you're just brushing in the same direction as you see the feathers going, really. You're going to lose your lines, don't worry about it. I'm just adding a little bit of water to the tip of my brush again and mixing up that colour. Remember to put a little bit of the umber in it so that it's not too bright orange. It's more of a dirty orange. And just come all the way down the breast, like so. And just keep pushing it against the canvas so that it gets into the grain of the canvas and fills these sections. Right, so in this bit here, there's a slight lightness. So we're going to add a little bit of the cadmium yellow and a little bit of white. So we're going to pull it down. Make sure you use the raw umber just to keep that kind of dirty kind of colour. And then just go in. So it's slightly lighter. It's not a lot lighter. It's just slightly lighter. And paint it in. And again, brush in the same direction that you see the feathers going. Good. Now you could take that same colour and you can just put a couple of wee light strokes in different sections down here. There. Give your brush a good clean again. And once you've cleaned, just take the excess water off so it's not too wet. And we're going to take the white and we're going to just take the tiniest little bit of ultramarine blue Again, just the tip of your brush, tiniest little bit of ultramarine blue, more white than anything. And we're just going to go down this area and fill that in. Okay, slightly lighter than the colour you had before, but still pale. So you blocked your bird's body in, which is great. I'm going to get you to just do the eye and the beak. Don't panic, it's not difficult. Okay, so we're going to take the Mars Black, which is here, and ultramarine blue. Okay, so you're going to have more blue than black. It'll still be dark, but it'll not be completely black, okay? So you get that really kind of rich dark blue. And you will need to maybe rest your finger on the canvas and hold the paintbrush closer, because this is a really small area, and just dab it on. So just dab it in so that you can get the shape. And it doesn't have to be totally accurate, as long as you can see the eye, like so. Again, I want you to do the same and just do the bottom of the beak. So from the halfway mark, straight across, and do the bottom of the beak, like so. And a little bit up here where that little, I don't know what you would call it, it's like a wee nostril of the beak sort of thing, isn't it? Okay, so give your brush a good clean, take the excess water off. And you're going to use a little bit of white to that same colour. Okay, so you've got that colour there, which is like Mars Black, ultramarine blue, more blue than black. And then you're going to add a good dollop of white, and that's going to tone it right down. Super duper. And you're going to do the top of the beak. Again, like that. In there. Okay. And then just do a little bit at the top of the eye. Just a little bit. There you go. Now we're going to just fill in this section here, so we've got all our base layers in. And then we'll start doing a little bit more information in the body of the robin. I'll just take the excess water off my brush. I'm going to use the red, and I'm just going to mix it with that pale blue colour. Just use the red, use a little bit of ultramarine, you're going to get this kind of lilac-y colour. Yeah, use a tiny, tiny dollop of the burnt umber, the brown, and it's going to give you a kind of dirty pink colour. Great. So you're going to use that to do the leg, and again, use your brush like a pen and just pull it like that. And again, just pull it like that. Don't be too, like, trying to get it totally accurate or anything. It's not a big thing. Just pull it down. Now what you'll see is there's little markings here where it's the claws, so pop them in. Just as you can. It's having to be totally perfectly accurate. There we go. Give your brush a clean. Go back into that same colour and add a little bit more of the burnt umber and mix it. Give you a slightly darker colour and just go down one side of this section here. And a little bit into the feet. There we go. A little bit into this knuckle here. And a little bit up the top there. There you are, done. Now you will tighten that up a little bit as we work, so don't worry about it. Right, so now we're going to do this log section that is like a little kind of I don't know what you would call that, a wee stump type thing that the bird's sitting on. So we're going to use a bit of the ultramarine blue. Just go into that colour you already mixed, it's totally fine. Use a bit of the ultramarine blue, a little bit of the yellow ochre. I'm just kind of guessing here. Tiny little bit of the burnt umber. Yep. And start dabbing it into that section there. So it's like a dirty green colour, if you like. And again, if you've got slightly different colour, don't worry too much about it. Doesn't matter. Again, add a little bit of the white to that same colour. So you've got it really pale. And then go in on the top. And you're going to get your snow. And just, you know, it's snow, so just dab it in. There we go. There we go. Again, add a little bit of yellow ochre to that same colour. And just in this section, go up because you've got the side of the stump. And down here, again, because you've got the side of the stump. Come down this bit and just dab it onto there. Add a bit of white to that same colour and just go across the top so that it looks like you're actually catching the top of the stump. Like that. Good, so you blocked it all in. Perfect, it's looking great, isn't it? Okay. I'm going to take you back into the bird. We're going to do a few more bits. I'm just getting a little bit closer to my easel so that I'm able to see what I'm doing. So in this section, I want to use the raw umber. Just go back into that same colour you used already. Put some of the, let me think, yeah, the yellow ochre. So mix it so you get a nice kind of browny yellow colour. Okay. Will we put white? Don't know, maybe just a little bit of white, tiniest little bit of white, and you'll get a kind of golden colour. And I want you just to use your brush and just sweep it. Right, so sweep it in the same direction as you see all those little feathers coming round. Okay. And there. There. So just use your imagination, coming around there, you see the image, so look at the image, see where there's wee highlighted bits and put them in. Okay, so on the kind of shoulder there, coming across here at the back, and then up and along the top. Again, go back and again with a little bit of white and a little bit of raw umber. You want a kind of creamy colour, a little bit of raw umber so you can get a creamy colour. And again, go back in again. And just do a little bit on the top so it's slightly lighter. Just little like bits, not all over, just little bits. Like so. Across here. Scared to go into that bit. Coming off the shoulder like that. Round down this bit. Like that. And then down into the bottom bit there. Can add a little bit of the white, maybe a little bit of the ultramarine blue this time, and see this bottom section where the tail is? Yeah, just like that. You're not going to get detail unless you really, really use a fine brush and everything else. As long as you can get some of these markings in, it'll look nice. Okay, so give your brush a good clean. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the ultramarine blue into the same mix, some of the white. You're going to put a tiny little bit of that brown, the white, You've got more blue than you have the brown, which is good. And we're going to go just where the eye is here, round, so up here, and just, you know, use the tip of your brush and just pull it out the way you see the feathers coming. Again, don't worry too much that it's totally perfect. It's not going to be perfect. You're just giving it that impression that you can see that there's changes in the feathers. Okay, so go back in, same direction as you see the feathers flowing. Add a little bit of white. Back in again. There. And just work in some of these areas that are slightly lighter. There we go. Give your brush a good clean. Good. Okay, so we're going to use the cadmium yellow and the yellow ochre together, mix the two. So cadmium yellow, yellow ochre, and a little bit of the cadmium red to get a nice rich orange colour. Add a little bit of white, just a little bit, don't go too white at this point. A little bit of the red, don't want it to be too... Right, okay, so we're going to go into this section here, just above the beak. And just dab it. You're just dabbing it because there's sections that are dark, sections that are light, okay? Again, just dab that in. Just under the eye, so go under the eye. There we go. And then into this section there. So you're just kind of spotting it on, so spot into this section so that you can lose all the white bits. Again, come down. Don't be scared to go back in and take some more. Come down to here, because there's a feather section in here that's light, down to that bit. So you're just using the edge of it and a few bits there, like so. Add a little bit of white again, yellow ochre, red, white, red, and just put some of that kind of salmony pink colour in here. Just dab it in certain areas, you don't have to put lots in. Go. Now what we are going to do before we do any more is we're going to put some of the dark spots in. So we're going to go umber into that same salmony pink colour, some of the red, cadmium red, and the umber. And it's going to give you a kind of rich browny red colour. Okay, so where you see on the screen, just below the eye, there's a dark patch, so just pop that in. Okay. And then just across the breast a little bit is another dark patch, pop it in. Up here is little dark patches, pop them in. So you're just using the kind of point of your brush. Okay. Coming off the eye. Go back and get some more colour and just in this section. So just dab it, you're just putting little bits in. What you're doing is giving the effect that there's shadows in amongst all these feathers. Again, you can come into here. I'm going to add a little bit more burnt umber to that same mix so that it's slightly darker, and go into some of the dark patches again. So the more darker ones, don't go into the bits that are really semi-pale, but go into the dark areas, There's a few little dark areas, and make sure that you go in the same direction as you see the feathers moving. Okay, so where it's at the top of the head, it's going up the way, and it comes round the side, it's going out the way. So just pop that in. Okay, good. You maybe get away with putting a little bit of a shadow down this bit. I won't go too much, but all it does is add a little bit of depth. Go. Give your brush a good clean again. Now we're going to go slightly light again. So we're going to go yellow ochre, white. That'll give us a really pale yellow colour. Tiny little bit of cadmium red. So you still want to have it orange, a wee bit of the cadmium yellow, because you want it to be a bit brighter. And it should give you a kind of pale yellowy colour. So that's good. And the tip of your brush again. And just where you can see, like, see where it's coming out from the shadow there, just come out like so. Just the tip of your brush. There, there. Might put a little bit of water on your brush so that it flows a little bit better. Mine's isn't flowing too good. There. Some coming out here, some there. And then you've got some of this paleness from here. Just pop some of it in. You don't need to do too much, just do a little bit. Again, up at the top of the beak there's a little pale bit, so do it. And at the eye, put in. Under the eye, pop it in, coming out. And then maybe down here a little bit. Go back in and get more if you need it. Again, add a little bit of that yellow, cadmium yellow. A little bit of the red. We want a nice bright orange colour, but we want it to be paler than the darks, and just put some of that orange in there so you're getting a little bit more of a, so that gives you the kind of fuzzy feathery look. A little bit of cadmium red just to get it slightly richer at this bit, like so. Okay, give your brush a good wash. Okay, so I think what we'll do is we'll put some warmth in the back here. There are a few cool colours coming off the back of the bird. There's cool down here, there's a little bit cool here, and there's a little bit cool up the top here. So if we use the umber and the ultramarine and the white, that'll give us that nice cool grey. Again, go down here, up here. You're just using the point of the brush at this point. Up here, dab it in here, all the way around. There's a little bit of pink hue in there, and there. Just coming off the beak. Coming round into the eye. Down there. Right, so add a little bit white to that same colour, that'll pale it, and then just again, we're just using the point of the brush, putting little bits in, just kind of dabbing it on really. Down here. Again, follow the line that you see the feathers moving. So if they're swooping one way, then swooping the other way, swoop them. There we go. Good. So you're getting these kind of feathery effects. Give your brush a wee clean again. Yeah, use that same colour again. It's quite pale. And just stipple it here. Just stipple it just a little bit. Like so. Oh, he's looking really fuzzy and feathery, isn't it? Give your brush a good clean. Right, so we're going to go into this eye and just sharpen up a little bit. So you're going to use the Mars Black. Right, neat. So use the Mars Black, neat. I want you just to go round the edge of the eye, right? So you're going to need a little bit of control. So use it like a pen around the edge of the eye. Don't worry if the eye's not completely accurate in shape. There. And I want you just to go along the middle of the beak. Like so. Catch that little bit there. So, and then just down the bottom of the beak, like so. There. There you go. Give your brush a good clean. And you're going to take some of the ultramarine and add it to that Mars Black. And just from the bottom up, you're going to dab it. There. Good. Now that Mars Black and ultramarine, you're going to just use that again. And see, just kind of below the eye, where the feathers is, the dark bit of the feather, you're just going to swoop it. Like that. And again, just little bits there. And little bits there. There's a little bit there. There's a few little bits there. Here. Coming round. And that's it. They're really dark bits, so we'll just pop them in. Okay. Now we're going to put some of the highlights in, so go to the cadmium yellow and white. So cadmium yellow, I'm running out here, and white. Tiny bit of red, but just the tiniest little bit of red. And just at the bottom here, just brush it. Same way that the feathers are. Brush them. Like that. Brush that bit. You can go over the black a little bit just to dull it down. There. Up here. And you're just using the tip of your brush. So again, I'm just using the tip of the brush and just popping little bits in. Just giving it a little bit of structure there. Again, down here and here. Out there. So you've put a little bit of highlight in, which is lovely. Beginning to get the idea of feathers now. Give your brush a clean. You're going to use the white and a tiny little bit of ultramarine blue, but just a tiny bit, guys. Really tiny. And you're going to come, and it's kind of where the eye is. There's this little scoop bit here. Just going to put that in, yeah. You're just brushing the tip, and again, down there. This way is going that direction, so pop it in. Like that. You've got some coming in this direction and then coming out, so pop them in like that. Then you've got some coming off there, so pop it in. A few little bits coming in there, just put rough bits in, doesn't have to be perfect. Bits there, bits coming that way, coming this way, and there you go. So this bit down the bottom is really bright, so we're just going to brighten that whole bit up. like so. Again, there's a bit coming off of there and in there. Then we're going to use the white and we're just going to go into this bit here, just dab it. You want it just to look like it is kind of feathery. Just dab bits in, like so. And that keeps that kind of feathery look. Going around here, up. You're brushing it quite dry. Okay, good. Again, on this bit, just go back in with that same colour. Just dab it in different areas. Good. Just like that. Take the white again, use it quite neat, dab it, spodge spodge. There you go. Add a bit of the cadmium yellow just to put some warmth as you're coming down this bit. Go. Okay. Looking great. So we're going to use a little bit of the red with the white, so it's going to make this kind of pinky colour. So white and red. Then go and get a nice wee pink. I'm just going to go down the inside of this leg there, nice and light, and do a little bit of this leg here too. There. Going to go into the tail a little bit. It's a little bit of a purple colour you're getting. And there. And into this bit here. Again, just pull the brush and use the point of the brush in here. So you've got a few wee pink hues coming in there. There. There you go. Cool. Looking really cute. Again, you'll see that this birdie looks a lot different from this birdie, and that's what I'm saying. Every piece is unique. So you're going to use some of the white, again, some of the yellow ochre. So it's quite pale. A little bit of the burnt umber. And I just want you to dab, like roughly, bits in there. Just rough, just guess it. Have to be perfect. And down the bottom, that bit there. And maybe along here. Okay, and then take that burnt umber. A little bit of that red, so you've got a nice rich purpley colour. Right, onto the edge of your brush and do the claw. There we go. Now there's a slight deep purpley shadow coming off the tail, so we'll just use that same colour with the red again. So you've got the cadmium red and the burnt umber, which is a nice deep purple. Put a tiny bit of the ultramarine in, just to cool it down a little bit, because this is a cool area. And pop it in. Down like that. And round. And then use some of your white to peel it up and go down the outside like that. And you're going to just use that darker patch and just blend from the dark to the light in this section. So raw umber, cadmium red, from dark to light, from that section dark to light. So you're just blending it. There you go. And then a little bit of the white to put that highlight in. Now Maybe want to use some of the yellow ochre just to warm it up a bit, and put that highlight down there, like that. And go in, burnt umber, maybe a little bit of Mars black just to pull it right down because it is quite deep, and get that little section in there because it's under the feather. There we go. Good. I still think we need to go a little bit lighter on this edge, so I'm going to use white, yellow ochre. Yeah, and we're going to come under there, yeah, and round. And then burnt umber on its own, so really quite neat, and just go on the inside edge of that. And along the edge of the tail. Clean your brush, take the excess water off, so dry it semi bit, and then just dab that so that it softens a bit, so it's not such a hard line. It will soften, just there we go. What I'm going to do is just tidy up that tail a little bit, so I'm going to add the yellow ochre and the red together with a little bit of the white, and we're just going to go into the background and tidy up the little tail a little bit. There we go. Bit more yellow ochre, a bit more white. There we go. Cute little robin. Doo-ka-doo-ka-doo. Now, if you wanted to, and you feel confident, he does have a little bit of a light highlight on his eye, so you can go into the white. Again, watch you take the water off your brush because this is quite delicate. A little bit of the ultramarine blue, white again. You could use some of the burnt umber just to tone it down so it's not too blue. And then go across the top of the eye. So again, it's quite delicate. There, like so, and that just gives that highlight on the top of the eye. And again, you could do the same again. Take the water off your brush, give it a clean, take the water off. Take that pale colour again. So take that pale colour onto your brush again, and just go across the top of the beak. There you are. And that just gives you some highlights on the beak. Just adds a little bit of realism without going too crazy. And again, if you want to, you can go back in now that this area is dry. Use the cadmium white, quite neat, but use it quite dry on your brush. So make sure your brush is really, really dry. Use the white neat, tip of the brush, and just put some of these little feathery bits in again. It just gives that effect that there is actually feathers there. You could keep going and keep going and keep going on this, to be quite honest, but for the purpose of this exercise, you're done. And you just sign it off at the bottom, and you've completed your little robin. Now, if I was taking you into more of an advanced tutorial, I would take you even further into layers, into the feathery wing. And up here we would go to a smaller brush again, and we'll start working in some of the feathery details around the top and stuff. But for the purpose of this easy, happy, light-hearted tutorial, we're going to leave it at that. So if you've managed to achieve this and you've gotten to the end, well done, give yourself a good pat on the back, and I will look forward to seeing you in my next tutorial. Thanks.